your new home. Piper and
Hello, stepbrother.
Andy. Where's your cane, love?
I don't like using it.
This is your new sister and brother. Oliver lost his family just like you guys.
Who is this?
My daughter. She was blind, just like you. But she drowned.
How did she cope?
I didn't. Some people believe the spirit stays in the body for months after death. I've spoken with an angel. It showed me a way to be her mother again. I didn't think it would work, but it's working. Listen. 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 Listen, listen, listen. We can bring her back. Did I do it right?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike. Joining me as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, grieving parents. I seriously doubt there's any of them listening to us right now because they would have a lot more important things to do than listen to a horror podcast, but it fits the theme. How the hell are you doing, Mike? I'm doing all right.
Doing well. I was vacationing outside of my city in the Bay Area. Now I'm back to summer temperatures, which are crazy. But I also ordered the Dirty Harry 4K, and when I got it, it was in like a blue, the blue Blu-ray case. So that was like the first red flag. And then when I opened it, it was a literal CDR disc.
Oh,
so
oops.
I already put in, this was just straight off Amazon, which is weird. So I already put in for a replacement that's supposed to arrive today. So hopefully it was just one of those random weird things, and I'll get my replacement copy today. But if it happens again, then I'll just get a refund because I don't want to
That's probably more than likely that was a return. Because I actually used to, way back in the 90s, maybe not the 90s, in the 2000s, I had a friend who had access to a shrink wrap machine. And what he would do is, he would buy movies, CDs, like any kind of physical media, take the disc out, replace it with like a blank recordables, CD or DVD or whatever, re-shrink wrap it, and then return it to like Best Buy or, wherever he got it. So I bet you that's what happened there.
Oh, that would make sense. Cause like first it was in a Blu-ray box, and I opened it and it had like, whatever you call it, the holder for like 2 discs. Cause usually I think it comes with the Blu-ray copy, but there was only 1 disc. Before I even looked at it, I was like, that's weird. And then I looked over, and I did try to play the disc just out of curiosity, because I was like, I wonder if any weird shit's on here, but it was
oh god, it's the
disc.
Ring.
Yeah.
Don't get yourself cursed.
no fun or deadly consequences from playing the disc, because it was unreadable. So there was likely nothing even on it, is what I'm thinking.
Yep.
All right, well, that tail's out of the way. So introducing Don now. What's up, Don?
Yeah, what's going on? Always happy to be here.
All right, so we are talking Bring Her Back, which we said at the end of the last episode, new A24 movie. And I managed to see it before I went out of town, luckily, because I was pretty busy this weekend. So I guess I will look up on IMDb. A brother and sister uncover a terrifying ritual at the secluded home of their new foster mother. That kind of vaguely is the plot, I guess, but it's good enough not to really give away too much. So we will begin with our general thoughts. What did you think of Bring Her Back, Venom?
Now, This is an A24 film, and anybody who's listened to us for a while knows I am a big fan of A24, even though I have kind of poo-pooed a couple of their movies more recently, stuff like Bodies, 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 that just didn't really do a whole lot for me. So I was kind of excited to see this one. And then after I saw it, I went online and watched some reviews and read a couple of reviews. I think I read or watched over 24 reviews, and every single one of them is glowing. This movie is being universally loved. I've yet to run into anybody who disliked this movie or didn't think that it was a 10 out of 10, whatever the case may be. Well, friends, it's time for me to shit on the parade because I think this movie is mid as fuck. It's a let's talk about what the movie does right first. It's the technical aspects are all great. Beautiful cinematography, great location, nice isolated location at this woman's house, at Laura's house. Nice interior design, cool kind of menacing yard area, with a dilapidated pool back there. So I mean the aesthetics of it all worked for me. Performances. I thought there were some great performances in this movie, specifically Jonah Wren Phillips as Oliver. I thought he was stellar. He barely says anything. I think he says all of 2 words in the whole movie, but just for an actor that's that young to be able to pull off some of the emotional range that he pulls off here while still basically being silent, I really liked it. And once the movie kind of progressed and you see Oliver kind of deteriorate more and more, I just, really, really enjoyed it. Andy, Billy Barrett as Andy, I thought did a great job. In fact, he's my favorite character in this movie. I instantly gravitated towards Andy, kind of that broken personality, but always trying to do the right thing, especially, doing the right thing by his blind sister, especially right after they lost their last living parent, their father. But where I lose it is in our antagonist, Sally Hawkins as Laura. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the problems that I have with this movie are going to kind of fall into spoiler territory, so I can't talk too much about it right now. I'm just going to say I didn't like our antagonist. I didn't think that she had the conviction that a lot of antagonists would have. She wasn't completely insane. She obviously had a goal and intention that, with all of the bad things that she was doing, there was a specific goal, the ritual, quote unquote, if you will. I didn't actually watch the trailer, so I'm not sure how much the trailer gives away. So unfortunately, I'm going to try to be as ambiguous as possible. Like, I'm not sure what kind of movie the trailer even implies this movie is, but overall, the third act just kind of loses it for me. And it's mainly because of our antagonist, Laura. Just some of the things that she does contradict things that she'll do 5 minutes later. She has very little conviction, or at least she has a lot of conviction throughout the film, but then she loses it at the end of the movie for no real reason. I have a theory as to why, but even if my theory is correct, it's not satisfying. This movie the ending is not satisfying. I don't know. Like I said, most of the issues I have fall into spoiler territory, so I can't really say too much right now while we're talking general thoughts. But overall, like I said, the technical aspects of the movie are good. The performances are good. At least the first half of the story I'm on board for. Once we get to the third act, some of the decision making, both from protagonists and antagonists, just, I don't know, it doesn't really work for me. And the movie just left me very unsatisfied. For an A24 film that's specifically in this subgenre of horror, there's no reason that I shouldn't have loved this movie. And as I'm sitting in the movie theater watching it, I'm just like, wow, what was all this hype about? Everybody talking about, like somebody was quoted as saying it's the feel bad movie of the year. What? Did they watch the same movie I did? I didn't feel bad. The only thing I felt bad about was spending an hour and 45 minutes in the theater to watch this very unsatisfying ending. Like I said, the whole duration of the film, wasn't bad. Like, I'm not saying the movie is bad. It is legitimately a good film. It just did not work for me. This storyline doesn't work for me. I liken this movie to It Follows. If you guys remember when It Follows came out, that also seemed like it was universally loved. Like, everybody was talking about how great it was, good jump scares, good gore, blah, blah, blah. But it just didn't work for me. The overall concept of a sexually transmitted curse just lost me. And if the movie loses me in the first 5 minutes, it takes a lot to get me back in. And It Follows never did. So I may be, in the minority there, and I understand that. I mean, over the years, when I say I disliked It Follows, I get a lot of crazy looks, and that's fine. We're all entitled to our opinions. If you love It Follows, awesome. I'm happy for you. I really am. And if you liked Bring Her Back, again, I am happy for you. But as a reviewer, I have to speak my truth. And my truth is this movie was very lackluster. It wasn't satisfying. It didn't give me what I was looking for. And maybe not necessarily in where the story was going, but you portray this woman as like this evil character, almost like Carrie's mother or Miss Carmody in The Mist. And then at the end of the movie, again, I can't really talk about what she does, but she does something that just leaves me just so mad at her. Even though it's something that's meant to make her a sympathetic character, I had the opposite effect. I'm like, you have no fucking conviction and I don't like you. So yeah, just overall, this is a solid movie. It's a good movie. It legitimately is. It's just, for whatever reason, and if you guys stick around for the walkthrough, I'll be able to get more specific about the issues that I had with the movie. But like I said, I can say that it's a great looking movie with great performances, a fairly original story that just kind of loses its luster by the third act. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be like I said, this is going to be a movie that's going to be universally loved, universally praised, and I'm going to be a man on a lonely island sitting here saying, yeah, this movie left me wanting so much more. And once we actually talk about the film's specific plot points and the walkthroughs, I'll be able to list a slew of other movies that did this general concept a little bit better. Not the exact concept, but at least the general concept, and movies that came out in the last few years, no less, too. I know this is the Phillippou brothers, and I've heard people across the board say that Bring Her Back is better than Talk to Me. I vehemently disagree. Talk to Me was fun. It had engaging characters. It had a great original storyline. A movie like that with no physical antagonist shouldn't have been as good as it was, but it turned out to be one of my top 10 of the year. So yeah, Talk to Me was great. Bring Her Back isn't even going to sniff my top 10. I'm sorry. It just left me so dissatisfied by the end of the film. And like I said, folks, if you're interested in finding out why I was unsatisfied specifically, I'd say stick around for the walkthrough. Obviously, if you haven't seen the movie yet, it's going to be in theaters for at least a few more weeks. It's the big horror release of the month. So I would say go check it out. It is still worth seeing in theaters. Like I said, great cinematography, beautiful shots, some really nice iconography throughout. The use of circles throughout the film I thought was really, really well done. But just like I said, just the overall story and where the story went left me completely unsatisfied. I mean, I ended up coming home the night I watched it and watching another movie in this subgenre just so I could remember what a truly great movie in this subgenre is supposed to be as far as its great storytelling. So yeah, I'm going to say Bring Her Back. You may love it. I think most of you will probably love it. So I would probably say go see it. I mean, at the very least, you're still supporting the horror genre, which obviously we all want. I want to see more horror movies in theaters. And this is the kind, movies like this are the kind of movies that we're going to get, this kind of, quote unquote, elevated horror that's coming to us from studios like A24 and Neon and stuff like that. So I'm just going to say overall, it's a good movie that just left me very, very dissatisfied. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, let's get Dawn's general thoughts.
Yeah. I, I kind of agree with Venom on this. I'm kind
Yay!
of you're not going to be alone on that island. I think I'll kind of I'm not going to take the lead on this one, but I will echo a lot of the same general points. Yeah, I can't really find a lot of this to be really enjoyable. To give a little behind the scenes info, the chat that we're using is nicknamed Trauma Porn number 6487, which kind of falls in line with where I agree. I'm really falling out of favor with this subgenre. Yeah, everything looks good. It, looks technically well accomplished. It looks well made. The storyline is original, but I am just getting really sick and tired of everything just being a drama with 2 or 3 jump scares and maybe some kind of horrific incident as the starting point for everything. I can't really complete that without giving spoilers. Yeah, I'm kind of where Venom is, where a lot of where fall in line with this, I can't really say much about it just because it's kind of spoilery to an extent. I do agree. I do like the look of it. I do like the theme. I do think that there's something in like the first act that kind of gets this thing going and it kind of starts this on a positive note. Um, yeah, I can't say that this ends up better than Talk to Me, which I wasn't that high on either. I don't even think that one was in my top 10, and I like that one better. So yeah, I do think that there's um I don't know what it is exactly, but there's a specific point in the second act where this kind of just falls by the wayside and it just kind of keeps tumbling and tumbling and it never really recovers. Again, this is one I've only seen once, so I'm pretty sure there'll be a point in the walkthrough where it'll be pointed out. But yeah, again, this is one where I can't get into what's going on when all of this trauma and grief porn and all this, so-called elevated horror just kind of rears its ugly head again. I'm just getting so fed up with it. And I do kind of want to point this out that a lot of it kind of is a little bit relevant to like the early 80s with like the slasher boom where okay, yeah, maybe we started out great where Hereditary and Midsommar and Relic and Dark and the Wicked and stuff like that that kind of got the genre rolling and kind of brought forth everything. Yeah, maybe that it started out like your Friday the 13th and your Burnings and your um stuff like that, and then you know 2-3 years later we're getting Don't Go in the Woods or The Forest or m- third or fourth generated recycled crap. And it's kind of where this feels where it's not it's just the same recycled crap that we've seen time and time and time again, and it's just really starting to lose its luster. Okay, yeah, it looks good, yeah, it's technically well made, yeah, if you were to put this up against any mainstream Oscar worthy film, I'd say that this has legs. I'd say that this is something that can stand alongside of it, but yeah, I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. I mean, it's the same exact stuff that I kind of said earlier in the year with Sinners. Okay, Oscar nominated stuff is, just not for me. I don't care about Oscar bait. I want to see something enjoyable. I want to see something fun. And okay, yeah, the feel bad movie of the year. Yeah, you're really selling me on that kind of stuff. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's good for what it is, but it just doesn't have much going for it once you get to a certain point. And at the very end of the day, I can say Yeah, all the technical merits are fine, but other than that, I don't have much to say about it. So, am I glad that we're covering it? Okay, but other than that, ugh, there's just not much here for me. So, um, since I can't really speak about much else, I'll say back to you, Mike.
Before Mike jumps in here, I just wanted to make a comment about trauma porn. I usually love trauma porn. The movies that Don mentioned, Dark and the Wicked, Midsommar, I adore those films. I think those films are absolute masterpieces. This movie, the Phillippou brothers, they just don't do enough to make Laura a sympathetic character. They try to do it at the end of the movie, but by the end of the movie, it's too late. She's already done so much horrific stuff that I don't care anymore. I don't care about her loss. I don't care about, you know, what she's trying to do anymore. They should have put that at the beginning of the film. Like, give us more scenes. Like, the movie's already an hour and 45, so I'm not saying make it longer. But I'm saying, give us some scenes with Laura and Kathy. Show us Laura when she was happy. Show us that she used to be a good person. We get none of that in this movie. We might get a couple of clips from like a video that Laura pops in just to watch and cry a little bit in her bedroom, but we don't get a lot of context in those videos, and the videos are usually either off screen or out of focus anyway. So it's just one of those things that if trauma porn was what they were going for, I feel like they failed, because the other movies that we would consider trauma porn do so much more to make characters in the movie sympathetic. And like I said, I only liked one character in this whole movie, and I don't know that he was meant to be a sympathetic character. I guess, yeah, technically he was, but ultimately, yeah, if this was more true trauma porn, and I know, you know, we're using that term very loosely here, but ultimately, if it was hardcore trauma porn, I probably would have liked it. I don't like this movie because it failed at making me feel anything for pretty much any character in this movie. Like I didn't care about Piper, the our main protagonist that we're supposed to be, like, you know, behind and supporting. Like, even she did stuff that pissed me off in this movie. About the only person in this movie, as I've already said, that I liked is just the one character, Piper's brother Andy, and that's it. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that if this was more to the kind of trauma porn that we got early on, I probably would have loved it. But to me, this feels like watered down trauma porn, and that's the problem. They watered it down. I don't know why they watered it down, but they watered it down for some reason. And even though most audiences still seem to love this movie, at least Don and I have our eyes open. So, and again, not to say if you love this movie, there's nothing wrong with it. If it's your favorite movie of the year, awesome, go with it. But all I can say is I barely enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed the first half of it, but then the second half was just frustration after frustration after frustration. So I'll leave it at that. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I liked it more than you guys. Probably top 3 to 5 movie of the year so far. The trauma worked for me because I don't think the trauma was relegated to just the antagonist. I thought there were trauma elements to every single character, and I thought they were written well, worked well, came together well. The main criticism I would have is I think the ending, they left it a little ambiguous. I didn't necessarily like what they did with the antagonist at the very end, because I just didn't feel like it was necessary. I wouldn't call it an attempt at redemption so much, because what's done is done up to that point of the movie. Nothing's gonna, at least me as a viewer, nothing was gonna change my mind about the actions that were taken. Um, with kind of like the little flashbacks and then like that closing shot. So that was like my only real kind of main criticism, was like I didn't feel they could have edited that out and just again, I can't specifically say what the character did, but they could have snipped like a couple sequences out of like the last 5 minutes and not even needed to do something that maybe can be conceived as like redemption or sympathy. So I agree with that criticism, but otherwise, I don't really have many complaints about it. I thought it was. Okay. Also, I guess the other criticism would be the general story, I guess, and I'll leave this very vague. I do think it's something we've definitely seen before. Where a lot of people are comparing it, obviously, to Talk to Me because same creators. I do think Talk to Me was more of original story. Like when I was watching Talk to Me compared to this, I felt with Talk to Me it was like something new, something that like it was a little harder to pick up the beats of where the story would go. Where this one, once you kind of understand, it's obviously slow moving at first as you're trying to figure out everybody's motivations. But I think once we're at the moment we're like, okay, I kind of have a good idea of what's going on. This one feels a little bit more of covered territory than Talk to Me, which that does matter when we're like giving it a specific like if we were rating movies, that would factor in like a specific rating. But since we don't really do ratings on here, it's not going to factor so much into my thoughts. And just to say, like, I enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, it's one of the top movies so far, but we're just approaching halfway through the year, so I can't say for sure if it'll be on my list at the end of the year. But right now, it is. I thought it did well in elements that I like in my drama porn. I thought like the gore in it was pretty good, pretty shocking. Like some of it, like it's not constant throughout the whole thing, but I don't think the movie was trying to be that kind of movie. I thought when what we did get was effective when it was used. And what else can I say? Just yeah, I mean, I guess I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I definitely liked it more than you guys, so I'll just leave it there. Back to you, Venom.
Mike mentioned the sense of trauma for other characters. I didn't even bring it up in my general thoughts because I thought they were glossed over. Like in our opening scene, we get a very not the cold open, but in the opening scene of the movie after the credits, we get a very horrific scene that affects Andy and Piper throughout the rest of the movie. But it happens so quickly and off screen that there's no emotional weight to it. Like we don't get to see that character interact with Andy and Piper and then have the tragic event happen, because then there might be emotional weight. I felt no emotional weight for anything that Andy, well, specifically Piper, anything that Piper kind of went through. I just didn't feel the emotional weight because we don't see it. It's barely even, and they don't even talk about all the other missing parents in the movie. Like, where's Piper's mother? Where's Andy's mother? Where, you know what I mean? Like, they don't even really mention it necessarily. They all we know is that Andy is the stepbrother of Piper because Andy's father married Piper's mother. But then that's the only mention we get of Piper's mother. Like, is she still alive? Is she gone? We don't know. So it's just like I said, I just didn't feel the emotional weight of any of the drama in this movie because it's just thrown in. You know what I mean? It's a quick scene, and then what? I'm supposed to feel bad? Like, you didn't do anything to make me feel bad. And then, like I said, with the antagonist, again, they do almost nothing to make her somewhat likable. I liken this character, and a lot of people out there might not even know what I'm talking about, but a lot of you who are Marvel fans will know what I'm talking about. What do you call it? The Scarlet Witch, Natasha Romanoff. Or no, I'm sorry, not Natasha. Wanda. Yeah, the Scarlet Witch. She was a hero for the first part of the MCU, but then she became a villain after she lost her children. And that made sense. There was emotional weight because we actually spent time with Wanda. We spent an entire TV series with Wanda and her family. And then when she loses them and she becomes a villain, it is 100% organic. It makes all the sense in the world. In this movie, since we don't spend any time with any of these people, and even less during their traumatic experiences, there's just no emotional weight to it. Like, I don't know how I was supposed to feel anything for these people. And my friends, I'm an emotional fucker. Like, I will shed tears at anything. And this movie did nothing for me. I felt nothing for anyone but Andy, the only character in the whole movie. And I guess Oliver too, Oliver/Connor, which, we'll get into later. But yeah, I don't know. Mike talks about the emotional, attachment, or wrong word, but just the drama of the whole thing being effective. And I just don't see it. It didn't work for me. The movie, this needed to be like a 2-hour movie for me to actually be able to feel something, or replace some scenes altogether. Like, take some scenes out of this movie, like the whole scene with Piper going to the rec center. Like, I understand that something happened while she was at the rec center, hence why she had to be there. But I didn't need to watch her play her silly game. They used up time there rather than doing the parallel editing where we're constantly seeing Piper at the rec center and then Laura at home doing whatever it is that she's doing. It's literally like a whole big chunk of just watching Piper play this weird version of blind soccer, I guess, is the closest thing I could come up with what they were playing. And then it would go back to the house and show Laura doing what she was doing. I just felt like this movie wasn't edited ultra well. It wasn't, like I said, they didn't, at least in my opinion, and that's just one man's opinion, they just didn't do enough to make me care. Like I said, I just didn't care. And then when we get the ending that we get, and it's like, I walked out of that theater so mad, especially with everybody universally loving this movie, people calling it the best movie of the year, saying that it's head and shoulders better than Talk to Me. The hyperbole is strong right now, my friends, because I am just not seeing it. But ultimately, I did only watch this once. I didn't have a chance to go see a second watch of it, which I almost always do, but that's probably because the first watch just kind of left me so sour. Again, I'm going to say this multiple times throughout the episode. It's not a bad movie. It is a good movie, and I think people should see it. The story just didn't work for me as well as I'd hoped it would. That's all. So I guess I will leave general thoughts there. What's up?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I felt we got the exposition necessary because the son, there were times early in the movie where they alluded to him getting in trouble younger. So you realize, okay, he had trouble as a youth for some reason. To me, like they laid the breadcrumbs there without a lot of exposition flash. I just didn't feel it was necessary. So when it came out later in the movie, what the situation was at home, it made sense to me because I feel like they were laying it out and they just kind of like slowly revealed it. But that's what slow burns a lot of them.
See, I don't. Yeah, I'm just not sure what movie you were watching, dude, because I don't know why you're saying that they fleshed out any of this. I mean, we literally, the first character that dies in the movie, we don't even meet until he dies. So where's the emotional weight there? And then you just said it. They alluded to Andy getting in trouble when he was a kid. They didn't show it to us. They didn't give us a flashback or a montage. They alluded to us. How am I going to get emotional about an illusion?
Well, they didn't allude to it. They said it as a matter of fact because
right. But that's it. They said it. That's what I mean. That is alluding to it by saying it. But
I don't need a scene of him getting in trouble if it's just in the script that. I mean, he's literally
it's not about him getting in trouble. It's about what he went through. We don't get to see any of what Andy describes, any of the stuff that he quote unquote went through with his father. We see none of it.
I don't need to see it though, because
I do. I'm sorry. I do. I mean, think about the other movies that we've named. Midsommar. Did we need to see the family die at the beginning of the movie? Probably not, but I'm very glad it was in there. Did we, In what was the not Dark and the Wicked? There was another one that Don mentioned. But anyway, the point is,
Relic.
yeah, Relic. Thank you. Perfect example. We spend the entirety of that movie with the 3 generations of women. So by the time we get to the end, it is a fucking gut punch what happens at the end of that movie. There's no gut punch here. There's nothing. I just don't understand.
I don't agree.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I think exposition is.
I'm not talking about exposition. I don't want exposition. I want to see it.
No,
that's how you build an emotional bond. When I see the abuse, then there's that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? The emotions kind of build up inside. What's that?
Maybe connection?
Maybe connection, but it's not even that. It's like, if I'm supposed to dislike a character because he abused his son, just hearing about it doesn't do it for me. It absolutely does not. You know, I mean, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying, is that I don't know if that was the proper term. That was like the closest one I could think of.
Yeah, I don't know if that was the term, but I'm having trouble coming up with the term. But yeah, it's just, like I said, it didn't have any emotional weight when you just tell me. I mean, didn't we just review, what movie was that we just reviewed? Oh, we didn't review it. It was The Shrouds. It was the new Cronenberg movie. Nothing actually happens in that movie. The entirety of that movie is described to us as the viewer. Like, a cemetery gets vandalized, but we don't see it. We hear about it. We get to see the aftermath, yeah. And then we get to hear about this new technology, but we don't see any of the creation process. We don't see the mistakes that were made. I mean, there's the Shrouds. Yeah, I'm so glad I thought of that. The Shrouds is Bring Her Back to me, because we're told about so much stuff that happens. But if I don't see it, if I don't build that animosity towards these characters or compassion, if it's the other end of the spectrum, I have to build compassion. Telling me a story does nothing. And that's me personally. I understand that, I'm just one man. But it's like, if you're gonna compare this movie to Midsommar, I don't see the comparison. Midsommar does so much to get that emotional weight in there. In fact, it does too much in some people's opinion, and that's fine for them. For me, it did exactly what it needed to. This movie did next to nothing to make me care about any of these characters. The only reason I liked Andy is because what happened in the film, the things that he's doing, the things that are happening to him, that are being done to him. See, I get to see it and I get to experience it. So, I mean, that's the whole point of a movie. We go to a movie to experience these things, to see them. If I want it to just be described to me, I'll read a book. That's why I don't read books. I watch movies because I want to see these things. And again, I'm just one man griping about this thing. And I think a big part of why I'm so vocal about this gripe is just because of how universally loved this movie is, and the fact that I just don't see it. It's just so crazy to me. But again, to each his own. If you love it, you love it. If not, then, what can I say? It's
but all those people that are saying that probably don't like. Yeah, I guess it depends who's reviewing it, because I liked it a lot more than you guys, but I would at the same time, I'm not putting it in like a Midsommar or Hereditary class. Like, those are completely different levels of greatness, where this one I just really liked, but Hereditary is to me that will that and Midsommar are going to stand the test of time, in my opinion.
Definitely. Absolutely.
But yeah, I just felt like we got sometimes in movies, I think it's a plausible way, because we know from the beginning, throughout the movie, there's issue. I mean, because it's a mixed family right off the bat, and then something happens, and then which causes them. But every step of the way, you see how, I guess, reluctant everyone is to trust the son. And so you already know, well, to me, I'll say, for me, the seed was already planted. Okay, there's something in the history that's making them not trustworthy, because his original plan was, I think he turns 18 in 3 months or something. He's going to take over guardianship, which under most circumstances, that wouldn't be an issue. But there's something in his past that is making the system hesitant. and I'll stop there because I don't want to like go down every plot point, and spoil everything. But like to me, generally speaking, like as I'm watching, I'm like, okay, they're like, I have enough to know that like there might be something that comes out later that is effectively going to like add some layers or depth to like what's going on, and it eventually did. Now I understand if for you, if you're like, no, I instead of that I would rather have them do it this other way, that's valid too. I just, for me, it was fine, and I was
Like,
fine.
I'm not going to tell a filmmaker how to make their movie. I've never made a movie. I don't know how to make one. I'm not going to sit here and say I can make a better movie. Not at all. All I'm saying is I did not feel the emotional weight that I was supposed to feel in this movie. And I am an emotional guy. As I've already said, I mean, I shed a tear at the end of Sinners. Absolutely. Well, this movie made me feel nothing. So I'm not, again, I'm not saying that the movie could have been made better or that I could do it better or anything like that. I'm speaking my truth. This movie made me feel nothing for any of the characters.
Nothing is you can say Andy. It didn't have its intended effect, but you felt nothing.
I felt nothing for Piper, and when we get through the walkthrough, I'll tell you why I dislike Piper. I'll tell you why I dislike Laura. I'll tell you why I dislike just about everybody in this movie other than Andy. Andy is the only genuine person in this movie. I mean, he's literally the only.
Well, so you felt something you just didn't like, because like I didn't.
Well, I said that I have one favorite character, absolutely, and considering, well, no, I'll shut up. That's a spoiler.
But hating a character is feeling something too. I don't think you're necessarily supposed to find.
No. But I hate the way the character was written. No. You're mistaken. I didn't say I hate the character. I hate the shit that she does. I hate the fact that she has no conviction. I hate the fact that she does horrific shit, and then we get that ending. And what, I'm supposed to feel bad for this woman? Oh, wah. No, fuck you.
I don't see. Okay.
No, so but that's the thing. I think that's what they're going for. They're going for some minor sympathy, very minor. But the point is, I think they're going for some minor sympathy. She's a mother who lost her daughter, and because of it, she's doing horrific things. And then, the end happens. And I know you're not looking at it that way, but I see it that way, that she was meant to be very mild. Obviously, she did horrific things. She is absolutely the villain of this movie. But based on her decision at the end, I feel like the filmmakers were trying to say, oh, see, she does have a heart. No, fuck you. No, I do not accept that. Absolutely do not accept it. Nope. It's just, all it is a character who can't decide what the fuck she wants to do. She has no conviction, and that's not the kind of villain that I like in my movies. I'm sorry. I just watched Mad Men last night. Madman Mars has way more conviction than Laura in this fucking movie. That's for goddamn sure. Bad comparison, I know, but still.
Well, it brings back the 80s slasher trope I brought up. So.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, I will turn it over to my co-hosts to see if they have any last minute things to say before we get into the walkthrough. I'm not sure how long the walkthrough is going to be. I do have a lot to say, obviously, since most of my gripes with this movie are spoilers. So, gentlemen, anything you want to add before we get into it?
At the risk of moving this along, I'm fine with it.
I would just say, man, like, to give like another, well, I don't know. I would just say grief to me, usually depicted on film, it's not. I'll put it the reason I accept the ending, even though I don't think I also have a minor issue with it, but probably not as much of an issue, is because I feel like grief as an entity, it's not a linear path. It more drives someone mad than anything else. So like, I buy the idea that like, just because grief drives you to do something in one instance, it could have like it's something that is navigated in such a weird, unique way for each person that I kind of buy into the ending, even though I don't love it, but like I can understand it. But we'll get to that later. And I'll leave it at that.
All right, folks. That's going to be your final spoiler warning. If you have not seen Bring Her Back and intend to, go ahead and pause the podcast and rejoin us after you see it. If you are not intending to watch this or already have, go ahead and join us for the walkthrough and get our more detailed thoughts on this storyline. All right, our movie opens up with a cold open. It's a pretty horrific cold open. We're looking at a woman with a video camera, and it looks like they're in some kind of like basement, and it looks like they're performing some kind of ritual. It almost looks like cult activity, except for the fact that at the very beginning of the movie it says this is not a cult. So I guess that goes away. But let's see. We see a girl getting strung up, like lynched, literally, like, strung up on a rope, getting hung. We see another woman not moving underneath a blanket. And then we see yet another person kind of writhing on the floor, almost like they're in pain. So you got one person writhing, one person not moving, and one person getting strung up amongst, various other people in the scene, very scantily clad. Like the guy in just his underwear is the one stringing up the girl. So, and then the cold open ends right before they're about to reveal the person underneath the blanket that's not moving. Literally, as they pull the blanket away, the scene goes to black and we get our credits. After our cold open, we're introduced to Andy and Piper. They are a stepbrother and sister. Piper is blind. And I do like the fact that they got an actual blind actress. Like Sarah Wong, the girl who plays Piper, is blind in one eye. She's not legally blind, but obviously if you watch the movie, you know which eye it is that she's blind in. But the fact that they got someone who actually has dealt with blindness to play this character, I thought was pretty cool. So, good on them for that. So like I said, Piper is a couple of years younger than Andy. We see them at school or after school one day. Piper tries to make friends with some random girls at the bus stop. They kind of just make fun of her because unfortunately, Piper doesn't wear dark glasses to hide her eyes, and one of her eyes is constantly moving, and it's constantly moving in all sorts of weird directions where it couldn't possibly be looking at something. And I guess these girls at the bus stop just, kind of made fun of her. Her brother Andy shows up, her older stepbrother Andy, and he kind of defends her and they walk away. This is the first time that we see Andy lying to Piper to make her feel better. Piper asks if the girls, if they didn't like her, if they were making fun of her, and Andy's like, no, they liked you. They liked you plenty. So obviously Andy, being a good brother, is trying to, cushion his sister from some of the ridicule that she probably gets on a daily basis. So already instantly I like Andy. That night or that evening, Andy and Piper are home, and their father, who they live with, or should I say Andy's biological father and Piper's stepfather, who they live with, is in the shower. We hear him in the shower, but then the kids realize that he's taking way too long in the shower. They start banging on the door. He's not answering. Eventually, Andy breaks into the bathroom, goes through the door, and we see their father dead on the floor. It looks like he might have had like a stroke or a heart attack, and then fell down and hit his head because there's a little bit of blood on the floor. We see Piper Piper doesn't understand what's going on because, again, she's blind. Andy doesn't say anything right away, but once Piper walks into the bathroom and accidentally kicks her father's body, she realizes what's happening. She tries to give him CPR unsuccessfully, and unfortunately, he passes away. Or he's already dead at this point, but yeah, there's no reviving him. So after this, we see Andy and Piper at a counselor's office, and it looks like they're about to be assigned to a foster home. Because unfortunately, Andy is 3 months away from turning 18. So he's only 17. So in the eyes of the law, he's still a minor. And the counselor that they're working with, Wendy, I believe her name was, she tells them that they're probably going to end up getting split up, that, Andy can go live in, some boy's home for 3 months. And then as soon as he turns 18, he can apply for guardianship for Piper. But of course, Andy doesn't want to let Piper go anywhere by herself. They've been together this whole time. We don't get an actual number of how long Piper and Andy have been stepbrother and sister. At one point in the film, we do see Andy's father playing with a much younger Piper. So at the very least, we're probably talking, 4 to 6 years maybe. That Andy and Piper have been stepbrother and sister, so they obviously do have a history. Andy vehemently says, no, you can't split us up. The caseworker, Wendy, says, well, the woman who's taking Piper doesn't really want to take troubled kids. And this is where we find out that Andy had a troubled past. It turns out that he got in trouble when he was 8 years old. We don't find out at this point what actually happened. We find that out later in the film, but keep that in the back of your head. So Andy is, because of one incident that happened when he was 8 years old, he's considered a troubled teenager. And the foster parent doesn't want to take any troubled kids in. Eventually, Wendy, the caseworker, is able to talk Laura, the foster mom, into taking both Andy and Piper. And then they eventually go, Andy and Piper drive to Laura's house. She has a nice big house in the middle of the woods, a pool that obviously hasn't been used. And she also already has a foster kid that she's already looking after, named Oliver. And Oliver, unfortunately, is a mute. He doesn't actually say much during the movie, so he's just kind of a decoration for the first act of the movie more than anything. Though we do find out that Oliver has a certain affinity for the cat, and every time he grabs the cat, Laura has to stop him. No, put the cat down. So we don't know why at this point, but yeah, he definitely wants that cat. So at this point, basically, we start seeing Laura's, wait, not yet. I'm sorry. First, there's the funeral. So we go to the father's funeral, the dad's funeral. Obviously, Laura, being their foster mom, takes Andy and Piper to the funeral. When the funeral is over, Laura tries to get Andy to kiss her father's body, and Andy, of course, is like, no, I don't really want to. But Laura keeps saying, oh, it's tradition. It's like, well, who's fucking tradition? You're a foster parent. You can't talk about tradition. But yeah, she's just like, tradition. Eventually, Andy does bend down and kiss his father on the forehead. And then Laura says, kiss him on the lips. She's asking a 17-year-old boy to kiss his dead father on the lips. I'm sorry, that ain't a tradition anywhere I know. Shit. I don't even think you're supposed to get that close to a dead body, man. There could be bacteria and shit. What the hell? So anyway, Andy says, no, I'm not going to do that. And he ends up walking away. Then we see Laura bend down and kiss the father on the lips. Mind you, I don't think they ever met. Like, they never imply that they've ever known each other. Laura, just for some reason, bends down and kisses this dead guy that she's never met on the lips. But when she bends down to do it, we also see her cut some hair off of his head, like, a little bit of hair, almost like some witchcraft stuff maybe going on. Who knows? That was the first thing I thought of. I see a woman cutting hair off of someone and putting it in an envelope to keep. Witchcraft is the first thing I think of. So yeah. So anyway, at this point in the movie, Laura starts kind of acting more the way we figure she's going to be. When we first meet her, she's very bubbly and outgoing, and she even calls herself a weirdo. She's like, oh, I'm just a weirdo, no big deal. But obviously, as the movie goes along, she gets a lot harder, a lot angrier, meaner, blah, blah, blah. So it basically starts out with little stuff where basically one night, the night of the funeral, Laura, trying to show that she's the quote unquote cool foster parent, actually lets Andy and Piper drink alcohol that night, just as like because according to Laura, she's like, we shouldn't be sad today. It should be a celebration of life. We should be celebrating your father, not mourning him, which doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. So she basically gets them drunk on whiskey, vodka. Andy obviously can handle his liquor, but Piper, being so young, I mean, what is Piper? Like maybe 12, 13 years old in this movie? She's not very old. And she's doing shots of whiskey right there with them. Eventually, Piper ends up passing out. And then Andy and Laura end up having like almost like a heart-to-heart conversation where Laura talks to him about his father. And then Andy asks Laura about her daughter, Kathy. As it turns out, she had a daughter named Kathy who was also blind, which might be why she was so excited to take Piper as a foster daughter. But Kathy died recently she drowned in the pool. She ended up drowning in the pool, which is, probably why Laura is now becoming a foster parent so that she can have, kids in the house, still have that feeling. Maybe that's the answer, but maybe it's not. And like I said, so after this, and then Laura says something. She has one specific line during this heart-to-heart with Andy that might actually carry some weight at the end of the movie. She says, "I would give anything in the world just to hear Kathy say mom one more time." So keep that line in the back of your head, folks. So that night, or should I say the following morning, Andy wakes up and it turns out he wet the bed. He wet himself. Now, obviously, as a horror movie audience, we probably figure, it's because he got drunk. He's a 17-year-old kid who got plastered the night before. By the way, how impressive was the fact that Andy can have a heart-to-heart talk after drinking whiskey, vodka, whatever else that woman gave them? Like, it was almost unrealistic that a 17-year-old boy would be able to have that kind of heart-to-heart talk while plastered on hard-ass liquor. But again, I'll digress. So, like I said, the next day he wakes up and he wet the bed. His sweatpants are wet. The sheets are wet. He gathers everything up and sneaks into the laundry room. He's able to wash everything. He doesn't get caught. Everything is cool. The next night, what we see is we see Laura take a measuring cup, like a large glass, like a Pyrex measuring cup. She takes a squat above the cup and pisses in it, then walks into Andy's room, makes sure that he's not awake. Like she's talking to him, "Andy, are you awake?" Making sure he's not awake. And then once she realizes he's not awake, she pours the cup of urine onto his crotch. And then the next morning when he wakes up, this time he's caught going to the laundry room with his dirty laundry. Laura ends up taking the laundry from him, realizing that it smells like piss. Instantly, Piper starts laughing at him. One of the many reasons I don't like Piper in this fucking movie. The fact that she's so callous with her brother, the one human being on this planet that she's supposed to rely on and trust. And this is just one example of many of her shitting on her brother. We'll get to more examples in a second. Anyway. And then that's when Laura ends up taking Piper to that rec center so that Piper can, play, whatever else, blah, blah, blah. She tells, Laura tells Andy to watch Oliver. Don't forget, Oliver's still here. He's mute, obviously, so you might forget that he's still walking around, but yeah, he's still here. She tells Andy to just watch Oliver, make sure that he's fine, but she locks Oliver in his bedroom. Like, she doesn't leave him, let him, have free reign of the house. She locks him in the bedroom. At first, I thought it was because of the cat thing, because every time Oliver gets out, he tries to get the cat, but we'll find out later that it's different. So, Andy realizes, or Andy's in the house by himself and he's bored. So he goes up to Oliver's room and realizes that the door is locked. And he's like, "What the hell, Oliver, are you in there?" Like, he's knocking at the door, but obviously Oliver's a mute, so he's not going to be able to answer. So Andy, of course, as is established early in the movie, when he broke through, or when he was able to pick the lock on the bathroom door where his father died, once again, he grabs a butter knife, picks the lock, and goes into the room. And there's Oliver just kind of standing there, just, staring blankly. He asks Oliver, "Hey, are you hungry? Do you want something to eat?" And Oliver instantly, his eyes light up and he basically follows Andy to the kitchen. Andy doesn't know what to make him because obviously he doesn't speak. So he grabs a cantaloupe and he starts slicing up a cantaloupe. At one point, he slices a wedge of the cantaloupe off, grabs it with the knife and tries to hand it to Oliver, intending for Oliver to just take the piece of fruit off the end of the knife. Oliver grabs the knife by the blade, not even by the handle. He grabs it by the blade. And in Andy's infinite wisdom, he lets him have the knife. He literally he lets him have the knife. Not only does he let this mute kid have the knife, he turns his back on him. He literally turns his back on him. And then then we all start hearing this weird noise of like metal hitting bone, a very familiar sound that most horror fans know. Andy turns around and Oliver is literally chewing on the butcher knife. And this is a big knife. It's a butcher knife. He's chewing on it to the point where he's ripping open his gums, his teeth are cracking, and his upper lip even gets split in half when Andy pulls the knife away from him. So literally, he's just gushing blood out of his mouth. Multiple teeth are cracked or missing, like he destroyed his teeth. So Andy instantly is like, I got to take you to the doctor. I got to take you to the hospital. So he takes Oliver outside. And I also forgot to mention, folks, that all the way around the circumference of this house, of Laura's house, is a white chalk circle. Now, anybody who's watched, Ouija movies or demonic possession movies knows what that circle is. It is, of course, a protection circle. Anything inside of that circle is protected by something. We don't know what exactly, but they're protected. So when Andy takes Oliver outside of the house to try to take him to the hospital, as soon as Oliver steps outside of that circle, he falls to the ground and just starts screaming in pain, absolutely writhing in pain. Obviously, we as the audience, kind of have a good idea what's going on. Andy has no clue that he's freaking out. He doesn't know what to do. And then at that exact moment, Laura and Piper come back from the rec center, and we see, Laura sees that Oliver is both outside of the house, which he's not supposed to be, and outside of the circle. So Laura literally tells Piper and Andy to just go inside. Just go inside and go to your room. I'll take care of this. Andy wants to take him to the hospital, or at the very least call an ambulance. But Laura's like, nope, just go to your room. I will take care of this. Eventually, Laura takes Oliver up to her bedroom, and Oliver is freaking out. Like he's having spasms, he's yelling. And Laura seems like she doesn't know what to do. She ends up putting in a videotape, a very familiar videotape, if you remember from the cold open. And what she sees is she sees a person freaking out just like Oliver is here in this scene. And what the person in the video does to try to calm that person down is they basically do circles, like with their finger on their forehead. They just basically, do circles, just form circles, and when she does this, it eventually calms Oliver down. And, she's able to subdue him, and he's back to his normal mute self, staring off into space, doesn't really know where he is, blah, blah, blah. Now, what is this video that she watches? Well, let's go ahead and spoil it. As it turns out, this video is a video of a ritual. And in this ritual, they are able to bring back a dead spirit, and hence the title of the movie, Bring Her Back. So obviously, Laura is trying to bring back the spirit of her dead daughter, Kathy. But, she's still kind of in the middle of the ritual. This is a long ritual. It's not something that you just do in one night. And then basically what we see is we end up getting the explanation through the videotape. What they're doing is when someone dies, if you keep their body fresh, there's a chance you might be able to bring them back. And to do that, you have to have like a sacrificial lamb who is purposely possessed by something. I want to say it's a demon, because an angel probably wouldn't react the way that Oliver does, but they never mention the word demon or deity or anything like that. Just the fact that there is something inside of Oliver. And what happens is the sacrificial lamb who has now been purposely possessed, if they consume the body of the person who died, so literally, like I said, you keep the body of the deceased fresh, this possessed human being consumes that body, and then they're able to put the spirit into another body, like another sacrificial lamb. So what we see is, we see in the videotape, it's a woman that's possessed by the demon. We see her consume a woman's body and then go to another body, another woman that's been killed already. We see the demon spit something out into the dead body's mouth, and then after a couple of seconds the dead body wakes up, and that body now houses the spirit of the dead person that was lost. So it's not like they look like themselves, they're going to look like whoever the sacrificial lamb is. And then what happens to the actual possessed person, we don't actually find out in the videotape, because that's something I was very curious about. Does the possessed person die? Do they go back to normal after the ritual is over? Blah, blah, blah. That's one of those questions that wasn't really answered. So now we know what's going on. Laura has kidnapped this boy, Oliver. It is not a foster child. We find out, or should I say that Andy eventually finds out that it's a missing child named Connor Bird. And basically he realizes that this missing, because he sees a missing poster for the kid. He's been missing for a couple of months now, and we see the kid, but with Oliver now has his head shaved, so he looks slightly different than the kid in the missing poster, but Andy knows that it's him, and I think as the audience we know it's definitely him too. So at this point, Andy decides to go back to Wendy, the caseworker, and try to explain his case. Try to say, listen, this Laura person, there's something wrong with her. She's trying to do something to my sister. Oh man, I skipped one scene that was almost uncomfortable to watch. At one point, on one of the evenings there at Laura's house, Laura ends up taking a bottle of Andy's body spray and spraying it on her so that she smells like Andy. Then she walks into Piper's room and literally punches her in the face. And my friends, there's no cut. Like literally, this woman punches the actress in the face, and of course it gives her a black eye. And of course, Piper blames her brother because she smelled his body spray. She's like, I smelled you. So yet again, another reason that I don't like Piper. She's believing everything that this foster parent is telling her, this woman that she literally just met days ago, and she's believing her over her own fucking brother. That's bullshit. I fucking hate that. Like that ain't right. I don't care what the perception is. I don't care that you smelled your brother's cologne or whatever. If your brother says he didn't hit you, then it is your fucking job to believe him. And maybe start to question the, crazy lady that you live with. But nope, she decides to side with Piper. And that's the scene where they kick Andy out, and then Andy goes to see Wendy. Like I said, he goes to the caseworker, Wendy, tries to convince her that there's something going on at the house. He grabs the missing poster for Connor Bird and tells Wendy, this kid is in her house. She's saying that it's her foster child, but it's not, because she keeps telling people that he has red curly hair, but he has no hair. His head is shaved. And even in the poster where we see his hair is blonde. It's not red. So Laura has obviously been lying. And by the way, all of this stuff with the cologne and everything else makes me feel like Laura probably did shit like this to her daughter too, because she was way too proficient at tricking a blind person. She's obviously had practice, which then made me start to think, hey, did she actually kill her daughter? Like, was that going to be the reveal that we got, that she actually killed her daughter? And she feels so guilty now that that's why she wants to go through this ritual to bring her back. As it turns out, I was wrong, but that was the first thing I thought of. So at this point, Wendy finally says, okay, let's go to the house. At first, Wendy wants to call the cops, but Andy stops her, says, no, don't call the cops, because that might give her enough time to, clean up the house and, make me look like a liar. So let's just go there. While they're driving there, Andy leaves a long voicemail on Piper's cell phone, basically saying, I never lied to you. Everything I said was true. I've done nothing but try to protect you. I really hope that we're going to be able to get out of this and blah, blah, blah. And, basically just ends the call with, I love you. Unfortunately, Wendy is in the car with him and she says something along the lines of, oh, we're almost there, which gets recorded on the message. Unfortunately, Laura then gets possession of Piper's phone, listens to the message, and realizes that Wendy and Andy are on their way to her house right now. So we see her start cleaning up the house because the house is a mess because Oliver went crazy. I'm sorry, I totally forgot about this. Oliver at one point was just getting so hungry that he was ripping the house apart looking for anything to eat, hence him trying to eat the knife in that one scene. So Oliver just destroys her house, and we see Laura basically tell Oliver, it's almost time. Just hold out. I know you're hungry. Just hold out. It's almost time. And then Oliver bites a giant chunk out of Laura's arm, like a big old mouthful of flesh, and just starts chewing on it. And also, the more disturbing part is that he starts biting his own arm. He starts eating his own flesh. Like literally at one point he peels off a long piece of skin off of his forearm. One of the cringiest things I've seen this year. That looked painful as fuck. So I will give the movie credit for its effects. Even though we don't get a whole lot of them, the ones that we get are very effective. The knife chewing and then, Oliver eating his own damn flesh. He's eating parts of the woodwork in the house. Like he's literally bending down and biting bits of wood off the counter. Like he's so hungry, he's eating anything that's not strapped down. It's hysterical. All right. So anyway, off to our final scene now. Wendy and Andy arrive at Laura's house. Wendy tells Andy to wait in the car while she goes up to talk to Laura. At this point, Laura has already cleaned up the house and covered up her arm so that the injury is not visible. Wendy knocks at the door. Laura answers. It's very cordial. Oh, by the way, Laura, as it turns out, was a counselor for over 20 years at the same facility that Wendy worked at. So these are old friends. These are old acquaintances. This is probably why Wendy didn't believe anything that Andy was telling her about the crazy shit that she's been doing. But she relented. She goes to the house. She basically asks Laura to give her a tour of the house, like show me Piper's room, show me Andy's room. And she shows her basically the entire house. Everything is good. And Wendy is about to leave. But then just as Wendy is about to leave, Laura touches her face, either has an itch or just she touches her face for some reason, which leaves a blood stain on her face. Wendy notices this and says, oh my God, you're bleeding. What's going on? And then instantly Laura starts to break down. She starts talking about Kathy. She starts talking about, I figured out a way to bring her back. Like literally she goes from 0 to crazy in 2.2 seconds and literally is talking to Wendy, trying to convince Wendy that what she's doing is right and that it's good and that it's going to bring Kathy back. But Wendy instantly realizes, oh shit, Andy was right. This bitch is insane. So she tries to leave. While she was in the house talking to Laura, Andy goes to a locked shed. There's a shed on the property that's been locked the whole movie, and we don't know what it is up to this point. But at this point in the film, when Wendy is talking to Laura, it turns out that Laura left the door open to that shed. So Andy is able to go in. And what he finds is pretty fucking horrific. He sees Oliver, the possessed Oliver, eating Kathy's body. Yes, as it turns out, Laura kept Kathy's body in a freezer inside of that locked shed. And now possessed Oliver, or Connor, whichever name you want to go with, his actual name, of course, is Connor Bird. He's literally consuming Kathy's body. He's eating out her eyes. He's biting chunks off her face. He doesn't end up eating her completely, like completely consuming her. It seems like he just needs to eat some stuff on the head, eyes, you know, maybe bit of the brain, whatever the case may be. And then suddenly we see Oliver's belly is bloated. Like Oliver is a skinny little kid all through the movie. After he consumes part of Kathy, his belly is just bloated. And while basically after Wendy runs out of Laura's house, Andy tells her, come here, come here, come here. You have to see this. Wendy and Andy both walk into that locked shed and they see Oliver eating Kathy's dead body. Of course, Wendy, like I said, has been friends with Laura for 20 years. So she instantly recognizes that it's Kathy's body that this kid is eating. And they both decide, we got to get the fuck out of here. So literally, they both make a break for it for Wendy's car. Unfortunately, then we see Laura's SUV speed into the frame, instantly killing Wendy. Like it hits Wendy and then pins her up against her own car. So Wendy's dead. She did hit Andy, but Andy's not dead. He's kind of writhing on the ground, you know, trying to get up. Laura ends up walking over to Andy and unceremoniously just holding his head down into a puddle of water that's right there. And Andy dies. And that pisses me right the fuck off. Because in the grand scheme of things, Andy's death meant nothing. And I'll get to why in a second. Literally, they kill my favorite character for no fucking reason whatsoever. Because after this, after Wendy and Andy have now been dispatched, Laura goes to get Piper and basically literally just tells her, well, I'm going to drown you in the pool now, which of course freaks Piper out. She tries to run away. Laura is able to knock Piper out, carries her over to the pool. We see the possessed Oliver with his bloated belly already at the pool waiting for them to show up. And then what has to happen is Laura has to kill Piper. And then as soon as Piper's spirit leaves her body, the possessed Oliver can then place Kathy's spirit into Piper's body. So she starts holding Piper under the water. Now, remember what I said earlier, that what Laura said to Andy, I would give anything in the world to hear my daughter just say mom one more time. Well, in the process of trying to drown Piper, we hear Laura's voice say mom. I don't know if it's Piper emulating Kathy, excuse me. I don't know if it's Piper emulating Kathy or pretending to be Kathy, or if maybe Kathy was actually, well, no, Kathy couldn't have been inside her because, you know, Oliver still has a belly full of flesh. So literally, like I said, either it was a hallucination or it was Piper being smart and saying mom. Because as soon as Laura heard the word mom, she lets go of Piper. She literally releases Piper, and Piper just gets up out of the pool and leaves, leaving Laura in the pool crying. Now, obviously, Oliver's standing there not knowing what to do because he's got a belly full of Kathy flesh and he now has no, carcass to put her spirit in. So he starts to attack Laura. Laura is able to defend herself. She's able to defend herself against Oliver, but then Oliver sees Piper trying to run away, so he chases after Piper. Now, I'm not sure why Oliver is chasing Piper, because if Piper is alive, he can't transfer Kathy's spirit over to her. So I guess it's just demonic craziness. He just needed somebody to attack. He ends up trying to attack Piper. He's unsuccessful in that attack. Piper is eventually able to get away. She gets to the road. Somebody's driving by. She's able to flag him down, and she's able to get in the car and escape. While this is all happening, Laura grabs Kathy's body and takes her into the pool where, of course, Kathy lost her life. And the final frame of the movie is literally just not the final frame of the movie, but the final bit of this scene is Laura waiting in the pool, waiting, W-A-D-I-N-G, not waiting in the pool with her dead daughter. And at that moment, the police all arrive. So obviously Laura is going to get arrested and go to jail for the rest of her life. But fuck you for not having the conviction to finish what you were trying to do. You've already killed 2 people. Oh, and by the way, folks, what do you think was going to happen to Oliver if the ritual was successful? One of 2 things was going to happen. Either Oliver / Connor was going to die after the spirit left his body, or he was going to be completely normal and Laura was going to have to kill him. Because do you honestly think that Laura is going to be able to do all this and then just let Oliver go? I mean, Oliver's going to remember where she lives, the fact that she kidnapped him, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, Oliver is dead, which means that Laura was willing to kill 3 people to bring back her daughter. But then when the moment comes to actually kill the last person to bring back her daughter, she pussies out. She can't do it. Like I said, she hears the word mom in Kathy's voice and she stops trying to drown Piper. And nah, fuck that. Like I said, I feel like that's a way of trying to humanize this person. And listen, folks, I don't have kids, but I still know that without a shadow of a doubt, the worst thing that could happen to a parent is the loss of a child. I know this even without having any kids. So I understand that the loss of a child will make someone do crazy shit, but just the lack of conviction that Laura had in this movie just made her a very lackluster antagonist, in my opinion. Like, you know, she wasn't particularly strong. She wasn't particularly smart, other than, you know, outsmarting a blind little girl, which, you know, probably doesn't take that much effort. But yeah, and this is why I don't like Laura. I don't like Laura because she has no conviction. I don't like Piper because she sells out her brother, the one fucking person on this planet that she's supposed to trust. And she ends up trusting a woman that she met 3 days ago instead, a total fucking stranger. Nah, I don't buy that. That's not the kind of brotherly, sisterly love that people are supposed to be sharing, especially the way that these 2 were established, that they were literally there for each other every step of the way. But Piper just pushes Andy away as soon as something perceivably went wrong. So the movie just ends with Piper. By the way, how fucked up is Piper's life now? She has nobody. All her parents are dead. Her brother is now dead. She probably doesn't trust the foster system anymore now. I wouldn't. But the last shot of the film is basically just her watching a plane take off, which kind of alludes to a conversation that she had with Andy earlier in the film after their father died, when Andy basically told Piper that when you hear a plane take off, that's someone going to heaven. Obviously, he's just trying to make Piper feel a little bit better, which it worked because it did make her smile. And then at the end of the movie, Piper hears a plane take off and smiles, obviously thinking about her brother. And that's it, folks. That's Bring Her Back 2025. I did skip some of the set pieces, some of the things that Laura was doing to Andy to try to make him seem like he was untrustworthy, like he was schizophrenic or whatever the case may be. I didn't go over every single little thing that she did, but I mean, she did a few things. Obviously, she never wanted to take Andy at all. If you remember correctly, she never wanted Andy. She just wanted Piper. And now when the movie's over, we know why. She only wanted Piper so that she could bring back Kathy. But then, of course, Andy turned into a wrench in the works and, you know, fucked up the plan for her. And thank God, like I said. But yeah, like I said, the fact that Wendy and Andy both die for no fucking reason, it didn't matter. Their deaths mean nothing other than making Piper's life worse. And that's what bothered me. I mean, that's one of the many things that bothered me about this movie. Like I said, characterization bugged me. People talking about Sally Hawkins as the performance of the year. No, fuck you. She's not Toni Collette in Hereditary. Hell, she's not even Mia Goth in Pearl, and I don't even like that movie. So, yeah, this is not the performance of the year. I'm sorry. And again, if you think that this movie is better than Talk to Me, I want to have a conversation with you. Like, I want to know why specifically you think this is better than a movie that was so much fun, refreshing, a fresh storyline, a cursed object that we've never seen before. I mean, just so much cool stuff about Talk to Me. And then this, you know, this is this movie ends up being a good concept that just kind of fizzles out in the third act, at least in my opinion. So that's it for me, folks. I'll send it back to Mike.
Okay. Yeah, that's it for Bring Her Back. And
Again,
episode.
Yeah, again, not a bad movie, folks. I know I've said it 10 times already, and I'm going to say it again. It is not a bad movie. I think most of you out there will enjoy it. It's just it didn't work for me. It left me wanting more. It left me frustrated, and it left me just annoyed at certain things that happened in the movie. So, like I said, not an overall bad movie. I still say go see it, support horror in the theater, but hopefully you like it more than I do. That's all I can say.
Hey, what else we got out for people to listen to?
All right, we actually do have some stuff out. The Crystal Lake Gift Shop, episode number 9, is available. On that episode, Lacey Lou, Mike, and myself talk about episode 9, season 1 of Friday the 13th, the series, which was entitled Root of All Evil, about a cursed mulcher of all things. So yeah, if you want to find out what we thought about a cursed mulcher, go ahead and check that episode out. It is now available. And just recently available, Creature Comforts, episode number 38, where we looked at 1967's The X from Outer Space, the rare non-Toho kaiju movie that we talk about on the show. So, like I said, that's available as we speak. So go ahead and check that one out. We've already picked our movie for episode 39. We even have a record date already too. So hopefully that episode, the turnaround for the next Creature Comforts will be a little bit quicker. Hopefully the turnaround for Crystal Lake Gift Shop will be the same, because I was happy with the turnaround last month. We've actually gotten 5 episodes out in 5 months this year, so that's actually impressive for a show that only did 3 episodes all of last year. So yeah. And then I actually do have a guest spot to talk about on the first episode of the Joe Blow Horror Show Summer Series. I went ahead and talked about, and just to let you guys know, the Joe Blow Horror Show is doing the Summer of Giallo. For those who don't know, I've been joining these guys on their summer series for 5 years now. This was the 5th year that I joined them, and they gave me the choice of movie to talk about. So, of course, I picked my favorite giallo ever, and that is, of course, Dario Argento's Deep Red. And it was actually a first-time watch for both of the other guys on that show. I guess the reason that they're doing Summer of Giallos is because it's a blind spot in their viewing. So they're basically going around watching everything that they've missed over the years with some guest hosts. So that just got recorded this past Friday. I'm not sure what the release. What's that? Oh, they loved it. Oh yeah, absolutely loved it. Oh hell yeah, dude! How do you not like Deep Red? I mean, if you don't like the movie, the Goblin score alone is worth the price of admission. I'll let you guys know when that episode is available and where it's available, because as of right now, I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, it is the summer series, so the episode might not come out for a few weeks, but I'll let you guys know when it does. And that's it for me, folks. Main show, I think we've got the main show planned out, but no date or anything yet, so it'll be later than sooner for the main show. And then, of course, fresh cuts every week. That's it for me.
What about you, Don?
Not much else to report, because most of my stuff has already been mentioned. Creature Comforts is available. As mentioned, we have the next episode ready to go. Looking forward to that one. And the only other thing is the 80s Creature Feature Roundtable that was recorded. I don't know when the podcast is going to be available, just because the earlier one I did, which was on the cheesy werewolf movies, that one still hasn't been released, but hopefully sooner rather than later. But I guess that's pretty much it for me.
All right, as far as I go, just the stuff Venom's already mentioned, and then I do have an upcoming guest spot. I'm going back on the Sin Bin show. I did it a couple months ago, which is a couple of the guys, well, three of the guys from 22 Shots, and they pick one of Vinegar Syndrome's monthly picks as the main feature, and then everyone picks their own individual movie to do like kind of like their own review on. And it's up to what I found out, it's kind of up to the cast if you want to buy like everybody else's pick. If you, because sometimes there's picks that multiple people just want to buy because they want them to, but not always. So sometimes you're the only one talking about the movie. It just depends. But the main feature is actually going to be the Dirty Work new unrated cut. And an interesting fact behind that I'll share, the director's cut actually has a shorter running time because I guess some of the original jokes they cut out of the movie, even though they were raunchier, the cut of the film was shorter. So I guess what the unrated cut is doing, instead of just adding in like the raunchier stuff, because I think some of it was like alternate versions of similar scenes, they're actually like putting it back the way it originally was. So it's not shorter by a lot, but just a little bit of the running time short, which is interesting because I'm curious to watch it and to see what got swapped out, because I don't know, if you guys or just our audience is familiar with Dirty Work, but I think it's hilarious even with the R-rated cut. So I'm interested to see what the unrated content and like what gets changed, what got sacrificed, because I probably would want to own both. I actually do have the actual just theatrical cut on like standard DVD. I think that's how long it's been since I've owned it. So this would be like my first upgrade for the 4K. And then yeah, so that's all I got as far as guest spots coming up that I know of. But like Venom said, the next episode of the main show is planned out. We'll just probably pick a good time in June for that. Otherwise, that's it. So I think the next episode is Dangerous Animals, right? Because that hits the theaters this weekend.
Yeah, June 6th. Yeah, we're back in the theaters.
Nice. All right, cool. Well, with that said, thanks everybody for listening. If you got thoughts on the movie or the show, leave a comment on YouTube or the group page or the email that's listed in the YouTube post. So yeah, we're always happy to see it. Some episodes get like random comments. I noticed like we get like a lot of like likes, like when they click the thumbs up, just not a lot of comments. So hey, if you got something to say, none of us will be offended. So just lay it out as you see fit. So
and I'm sure a lot of people are gonna disagree with my assessment of bringing her back. So please hit me up. Let me know why I'm wrong. Did I miss something? Am I just being too judgmental? I don't know. Just hit me up. Let me know why I'm wrong.
All right. Well, with that said, thanks for listening. We'll be back in a week with Dangerous Animals. Let's say bye to the listeners.
Later.
If you're going to kill 3 people to get your daughter back, then kill the last one at least so we can get a decent ending on the movie.
Peace.